Hi everyone, welcome to the second anniversary of Women in Lighting. My name is Sakina Dugawalla Moeller. I'm a lighting consultant that is based in the UAE, and I own my own practice called Light.Func that is based in the UAE and Tanzania. I'm also the Women in Lighting Ambassador for the UAE, and essentially I'm involved in today's global gathering to take part in the project segment. So thank you to Sharon and Martin who've invited me today, and all the sponsors, of course, for making this event happen. Special shout out to Huda Lighting, who are from the UAE originally. Thank you for facilitating, this event today. So my presentation is going to be focused on this whole subject of making light work. Sharon Stammers came up with the name to the presentation because I couldn't. And essentially what I always do with all my projects and all my presentations is I always focus on one element visually that really enhances and embraces what that talk or presentation is about. And for this particular one, as you can see, this beautiful light art photography, which was taken by a Brazilian photographer called Refurbishment, that you can read the article of this series of images that he's created on DIYphotography.net. So without further ado, I will start with my presentation, and I wanted to just mention that the focus of this presentation will be on 3 projects. And these 3 projects will basically talk about, in the first sense, the luxury and light, how we use light in refurbishment, and how, of course, latest technologies have now put forward this element of being able to enhance architecture with light and technology. And so starting with light and luxury, I've used this particular image, which is very consistent in what I, as an individual, will consider luxurious. And that is a very specific play of light and shadow, where you have a lot of ambient lighting, a lot of glint, a lot of even striations, if you like, which really creates that element of depth within the space and added luxury, as this particular segment is about. So without further ado, this particular presentation today, or my project focus, will be on the SLS Wow Hotel. And at this point, I will just use the laser pointer so I can specifically point out which areas of it I'm focusing on. So this being the first SLS hotel within the Middle East is synonymous with luxury and elegance. The client really wanted to create a benchmark for hospitality and luxury, to create a new address in town, to create that are obviously enhanced with these panoramic views because of where the project is situated. And with regards to the actual interior architecture, which is designed by Bishop Design that are based in the UAE, you can see that there is this incredible sense of design, which is enhanced by the use of texture, the use of color, which can be portrayed as almost beige, but as such it isn't. There is a lot of use of white, which is synonymous with the actual brand, and they have used very specific items to essentially, really add that element of elegance. So how do we work with light to enhance, this kind of like look and feel that the client is expecting, and that Bishop Design have worked to? What we do is we embed lighting within the architecture to create that ambient glow. So these very, very thin lines of light were a vision that they had to kind of like create the surround. We have low-level lighting specifically in some areas, which highlight all of the different elements, where we do have some kind of fixed seating, all of this cantilever joinery that is highlighted, and at the same time, of course, not forgetting our wayfinding light and task orientation light, using elements such as silhouetting, to really, really bring out all of the specifics within that space. And what we have done is we have actually used the similar kind of lighting strategies to tie in all of the other areas. So what we have managed to do is, again, concentrate on all of the joinery elements that have been created by the interior architects, use those lines and re-embrace them within this kind of like mirrored ceiling, which obviously reflects the herringbone effect of the flooring. We've got all of these specific focal lights that create wayfinding and contrast. And of course, not forgetting the artwork, which is a very, very big element of this particular project. And then on top of that, as you will see with every space as we move through, in fact, if I just go back to the image before, there is always this element of really beautiful decorative lighting. So all of the lighting that you will ever see within this space is specifically designed to be seen, because that is the interior architect's, what's it called? Their bigger picture. That's the mistress in the room, if you like. And so when we start to move within the spaces, this again is the ground floor. You've got a breakout area with a cafe. What we have done is we've created this element of wall grazing. Now, why have we done that? Unless you go to the actual property, what you don't realize is that it's expanded to be built all the way to the plot limits. So the ground floor spaces don't get natural daylight. And what we have done is we have used strategically wall washing techniques that, Urco Lighting constantly talk about, that, do create this element of brightness within a space. And the idea is that this lighting will fade and will dim according to what is happening with natural daylight in other spaces. And again, all of the joinery detailing, all of the focal lighting, and not forgetting these really, really beautiful chandelier constellations that have been created. Artwork is such a prominent element within this property that it always takes, that first element of light that we have created. So we've had to very specifically design, to use particular optics to really bring forward, the breadth of the light, of the artwork. And if we start to move forward, so on level 70 is actually the all-day dining area. And what you will notice is, again, we've created that brightness by having this element of grazing, but at the same time, it's because the textures within the space are so specific. And we don't light everything. We actually only light the background so that anything in the foreground does actually stand out, even in silhouette. Added light within the joinery, every specific area has its own line of light, rather than just have this, kind of like really linear look, because what it does is it creates contrast between the spaces that we want, patrons to enjoy. We've got these pools of light that create the contrast. The space still has that play of light and shadow, but still appears quite nice and bright. And if you actually move into the general dining space, you will notice that the texture stands out. The space appears fairly bright. We have the focal lighting. We have all of the pendants that are, quite, I should say, enhanced because of our play of light, which is very specifically put in some areas. So the idea behind our lighting scheme is just to bring out everything that the interior architect wanted, to facilitate everything that, the restaurateurs would want to really highlight, and at the same time to create this added elegance at all times. And as we move forward to what is one of my favorite spaces, the Sky Lobby, you'll notice that we have created this, connection between the lower level of the sky lobby, and the higher level by using grazes of light. They, highlight the paneling. They make the space feel very nice and bright and elegant by drawing the user's gaze upwards. But you don't forget that there are so many different layers that have been added with light. For example, if we go back to this view, you'll see that lighting is actually embedded. And what it does is it creates this reflection with the bottom of the bar for that added elegance. And there's a lot of light that has been reflected and refracted, which coincides with how we've lit the bottle. So light actually filters through, and everything on display is visible, but at the same time, it really brings forward that element of how liquid reacts and how transparent and translucent materials react with light. And of course, what we have also ended up doing is enhancing this, the periphery with uplights that can dim as the day ends, so that you can still enjoy that panoramic view, within as you sit there and wait to be checked in. Another thing that we were supposed to do is we had to recreate the sense of CL Spa, which is available in other areas of the world. And there's this element of luxury. Again, just embedding lighting so that it is not seen but just felt. And of course, having it only where it's required, it creates that really nice sense of relaxation. And essentially, the way light is enhanced or applied is almost the same as in all the other spas around the world. Then we move forward to Karna, which is a specialty restaurant. So lighting, again, is all in the detailing with only horizontal lighting above the actual bar area and on the floor for wayfinding, which leads us to the inside. And then you've got this parasol ceiling, which is really beautiful. So it draws the user's gaze upward, lighting up the tree to create that lovely play of light and shadow. Just a really, really wonderful ambience and focal light on the artwork and at the same time on the tables, which creates quite a beautiful fine dining space. We move forward to the final area, which is my favorite, which is the club. And again, you've got all of this truss lighting, which was the interior architects, what should I say, a bigger picture that they wanted to create. And what we have done is we've just used architectural lighting to create a sense of place, to create that elegance, to play with all the reflectance of the materials, again, enhance the verticality of the space. And then this feature light actually became pixel map so that it would actually move with the music, creating quite a beautiful element to the Dubai skyline, where when you move outwards, yes, we do have all of the architectural lighting, but at the same time, we have not lit anything on the periphery, which will take away from the view. So, the final result is this really, really beautiful space that flows from the ground floor all the way to the 75th floor, that really enhances, the client's idea of luxury and added elegance. Which brings us to the next part, which is light and refurbishment. So we were tasked with uplifting the look and feel of the Millennium Airport Hotel, which is very much characterized with these glazing that goes from the ground floor all the way to the top floor. So we light up the structure, to just create that really nice diffused light for the main entrance. We've got the columns that are vertically lit for obviously security purposes, but at the same time, again, they create brightness within the space and guidance. And then we've got these dappled lights. Now, these dappled lights are specifically put on the floor because they tie in with the interior architect's vision, who in this case are LXA based in Dubai, and they had this constellation of light that cascaded from the top floor, and we had them suspended from about 5 to 7 meters coming down, specifically to create this glint, because the actual tiles were not removed. They were just polished and kept as part of a soft refurb within the lobby area. And so we play with that reflectance of the material to have on approach this element of dappled light, again, which ties up with the entrance, and as we move through, actually with the outside pool bar as well. Another thing that we worked on was a specialty restaurant of Jones, high-end Jones social for fine dining. So again, all of the materiality is very much enhanced by having concealed lighting. Everything is quite low level, everything is layered so that, all of the texture, all of the space is revealed to the patron. But at the same time, we've only got this focal lighting where it's required, not forgetting how we have highlighted all of the textures, all of the glass, anything that is on display. So technically, even with this space, as we do with all our other projects, we never actually light the horizontal as a primary objective. We like everything that is vertical because that is what creates that magic. That is what brings forward the element of interior architecture, and then we start to almost fill in those blanks horizontally to facilitate task lighting and so on and so forth. And so from the front, this area is actually a breakout lobby. It breaks into the general lobby. And what we ended up doing was, apart from just, again, moving forward and creating that layering so that all the texture, all of the interior architecture is revealed to you, we have created dynamic white lighting on the front so that as the sun moves from sunrise to sunset, then the color temperature within these breakout areas will also mimic what is going on outside to create a very holistic lighting scheme, which moves us to the next part, which is the pool bar. So the interior architect wanted to create, because the bar is called Oasis, this kind of a central tree from which everything is based. And you have these beautiful lanterns that are made of wood and rattan. You've got this herringbone wraparound bar that goes all the way across. So what light does is it just brings out this element of the floating platform. It highlights the entrances. We've got, all of the texture and the transparency of the canopies that are lit up quite beautifully, and then not forgetting that dappled effect of light that comes through. So the original visual that was done by Light.Func that most people know, and we have enhanced everything using Photoshop. We have added these reeds on the edge to create privacy. We've added this level of uplighting, again for privacy, but also visual coherence between the different spaces. And that brings us to light and technology. So there is this real, I should say, trend in the market where all clients want to have, as they say, media facade. But what we have decided to do, and what I think all lighting consultants try to do, is always not forget that we have to have the story. So for us, with this particular project, we wanted to create this element of media facade, but not forgetting that there is a message behind it. So our narrative wanted to concentrate on where the project is based, which is basically Saudi Arabia, and the topography of Saudi Arabia being, a desert area with the sand dunes, but it actually moves down to the coast where it does have, waterways, and then not forgetting this constellation, because regardless of where you are, yes, we do have some elements of light pollution, but there is also this visibility of having the stars. So we don't want to forget about those, or actually even take them and put them within our design intent. And then, of course, not forgetting that, the Middle East being the way that it is, that there is a nightscape that we have to work with. And so, and with every single project that we work on, we always try to educate the client, on the importance of preserving the dark sky, even if we are already in a fairly, polluted environment in terms of lighting. We also explain to them what are, the different elements with regards to media facades, how poorly lit media facades can create a lot of confusion, but that there are better ways to do it. However, the best way to always put forward media facades is also not forget that we are lighting architecture, so not to forget the architectural elements. And so with this mood board, we're able to explain to them that, yes, essentially we are concentrating on all of the architectural elements, and then we add, digital light, if you like, to create a concept. that that will work. And so, you know, you've got all of the vertical elements that are lit up, the entrances that are enhanced, you know, the canopies that are also enhanced so that the louvers stand out, and then not forgetting using this canvas to create this media facade lighting strategy that they wanted. And as we got the initial scope, we really went overboard. And if you have a look at this next video, it will show you our take on how we could take this design narrative and apply it onto it without thinking about any budgets as such. And so this is pretty much what it looked like. So we have sand particles flowing through the building, you know, and then starting to cascade downwards. And they slowly start to then bring forward this element of sand and how it has a lot of texture, it has a lot of color. And there is, you know, like a cascade of these sand particles that then start to descend onto the building. And then slowly start to coagulate and create this view of the desert dunes. And the desert dunes start to move through as you explore the country towards the coast. And you have the water, you know, that flows onto the beaches. And then as you move away, you actually start to be immersed in the water. And then that water again flows through the building as the days move, as the seasons change. And then as it starts to get darker, we have this sunset start to appear where, you know, over the water, and then it starts to move across the building again, and sunset within the desert, and then eventually moving into this, you know, this dark sky as the sun starts to fade and the stars start to appear. And, you know, the stars start to appear, and then we have the rest of the skyline start to add to those stars so that they almost fade. And all that is visible is the actual skyline, which we then bring in from the other side because it's man-made. So it's not exactly something that is very natural, but something that is quite prominent and that we can't forget about. And the spectacle becomes that the media facade does have a language, it does have an intent, and it does have a story. However, this was going to pretty much cost millions of euros. So in the end, we ended up doing what we call internally a dumbed down version of it, which is, I should say, a bit more abstract. So again, we don't want to forget that message that, you know, we have the sand that comes in and it twinkles in slowly and it starts to move through the building. But what we did in this instance, because we had to tone down the media facade due to budget limitations, we actually tied in all of the architectural lighting to work with it. So as the deserts form, the architectural lighting remains kind of like this warm light. And as the facade changes to start mimicking the ocean, the rest of the lighting will change with it, even if it's in a more static way. But it creates a connection between this architecture and the media facade that we've created. So as it moves through the sunset, which is part of our language, you know, part of our intent, it is also specifically seen in all of the other architectural elements, which I thought was quite poetic. And, you know, having to work on these slides to create this content is really a privilege, and how technology can actually bring forward something really beautiful. It doesn't have to be completely overwhelming. It can be something with a message, and it can be something fairly sophisticated. And with that, I would like to thank everyone for their time today, and I hope that you enjoy the rest of the presentations. Thank you again to all the sponsors and to Sharon and Martin for inviting me to speak, and I look forward to the next one.